and welcome back. We're coming toward the end of our course, and I want to again thank you for taking the time to be a part of this. We're talking today about empathy in action. And what I'm going to say will no doubt seem repetitive, because the principles of empathy and the way we live out empathy are not elaborate. There's not many things that we need to take into account in order to do that. It's a constant repetition of the same things over and over again, the same attitudes in principle and in action. So, what is empathy in action? Empathy, once again, is a crucial emotional aptitude. It is the ability to know another's feelings and to act in a way that further shapes those feelings. It is being able to manage emotions in someone else, and thus forms the core of the art of handling relationships. Think of empathy as figuratively and sometimes literally putting an arm around the shoulders of another person and say, "Come, let us. I feel what you're feeling. I want to engage more. I want to understand it more. And I'm here for you." Daniel Goleman puts it like this: emotional entrainment, which is his way of saying empathy in action. Emotional entrainment is the heart of influence. We can only influence people if we have gained their heart. I talk about influence that way. Influence is something that flows from the heart of one person into the heart of another. The Latin words influere, which mean to flow into. And that word, influence, has to do with first engaging, with first opening the channels between one heart and another. And then allowing, as we saw last time, allowing the emotional energy from the stronger to the person in greater need. From the person who is more expressive of their feelings to the person who may not have the security and strength to be able to do that. And so they will receive more from you. I'm thinking of a joke right now, which may not be politically correct, but it was a story of a guy who was told that when you watch someone for long enough, the stronger person will influence the other, that even their behavior, their physical posture and their reactions will mirror that of the stronger person. And the guy who heard this nodded and thought, gee, that's amazing. And then a few hours later was found at an aquarium, and he was standing watching the fish and doing this. So who was the stronger individual in that case, I guess, is the point of the joke. The fact is, though, that we do influence one another by our feelings. This is something we've established well now in the last couple of sessions. And so, once again, empathy in action involves, first of all, being self-aware. Use self-awareness as a platform for everything. And particularly when you're being self-aware, to disengage parental attitudes, to disengage the insecure child, and to engage the adult. Adulthood involves honesty and transparency. Adulthood, second of all, as I also mentioned in a previous session, involves being a WYSIWYG. A WYSIWYG is a person who operates on the basis of what you see is what you get. If you will look at the diagram that is on the screen right now, it will show you that WYSIWYG happens from the inside out. It automatically happens from the inside out. In one sense, you will always be a WYSIWYG. People will see what is really in your heart by the actions that are expressed on the outside. And so it's important to make sure that the things you want people to see and recognize about you, that you're allowing them to flow from the inside out. There are these layers of you that are evident to all. Most times, when we see the person, again, if you look at the diagram, when we see the person, we see the outer layer, which is their actions, their behaviors. That is the public you. If you go to the layers beyond that, you will start to see the person's priorities. You will start to see their attitudes. You will see their thought processes. Eventually, you will see not only their emotions, but you will see their values, because beliefs and values are at the deepest heart of every individual. This is the real you. This is the you that really lives inside. And we allow ourselves to express those from the inside out. A person of integrity is the person who is the same on the outside as they are on the inside. That's what integrity means. It means complete integration of all of the levels of identity from the inside out. And so healthy EQ in a social context is able to balance being true to yourself with social skills and using them with integrity. And so thirdly, lose the mask. Most of us use what are called defense mechanisms to mask our true feelings. And we do that when we feel that showing them could land us in trouble, or showing them could cause people to reject us. And so we put on the mask. We put on the masks of image consciousness. We put on the mask of avoidance. We put on the mask of projection, where we project what we see in others into our way of interacting with them. The main categories of these are avoidance mechanisms, which allow us or cause us to actually disappear from the situation and put some other version of ourselves into it. Then there are compromise mechanisms. And thirdly, there are defiance mechanisms. You can see more about this if you go to the next stage of this learning process and get the book, Learn to Love Yourself, which talks in detail about all of the things I'm sharing with you right now. And then fourthly, be present. Avoid distractions. Quit multitasking. Don't believe that you can be all things to all people all the time. You need to be conscious and to be engaged with what is immediately in front of you if you're ever really going to be a person of influence. Learn to listen. Ask yourself some questions. Am I internally free to be myself? Am I respecting and expressing my own values in how I interact in this context? This doesn't mean that you have to pick an argument every time you're in the room and someone says something that contradicts your own values. The main thing is to hold your own values, and then when they are being violated in a way that is damaging either to the group or to an individual in the group, that you then speak up. There will be moments when you will be asked for your opinion, and that's the time to give them. I'm not speaking about being a contentious individual. I'm speaking about holding your truth and holding it with great value and with a great sense of commitment. And so, some relationship management strategies as we draw this to a close. Mindfulness, once again, before engagement. Being aware of what you're feeling and why. Second of all, curiosity. Being curious about others. Engaging with them so that you can truly connect with them. Thirdly, understanding the difference between acceptance and agreement. I have mentioned this before as well. Acceptance is saying, I allow you, I give you complete permission to think what you think, to feel what you feel, and to express it. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, I may disagree with what you're saying, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Agreement is when you say, yes, I agree, when you act in agreement, when you express agreement. And so you become party to what the other person is thinking. And of course, there are places where you will need to do that, but it's not always necessary. And so understand the difference between those two things. Remember what matters to each one. Remember enough about every conversation you've had so that you can eventually identify what each person in the group is feeling. And then number 5, courtesy. Courtesy is a non-negotiable. We never, even when we disagree vehemently with someone, we never have to attack the person. Play the ball and not the man. Be courteous in the how. You know, again, it's not only what we say that counts, but how we say it that speaks volumes. Number 6, ask open-ended questions. Ask questions that initiate a conversation rather than just call for a one-word answer. Number 7, listen well. Listen interactively. Give good feedback. And affirm every contributor if you're engaged in a strategy session particularly. Encourage people to speak by recognizing them when they do, by making sure that they are heard. Catch people out doing well. We are so good at catching one another out when we're doing badly. You know, the reason for that is because we're so used to having been caught out ourselves so often that we're looking to get even somewhere. Someone is making more mistakes than I've had the hidings for making myself over the course of my life. And so become aware of people doing well. Consciously catch them out, intentionally catch them out doing well and recognizing them. Do you know how it is when people look at a photograph, a group photograph? Who's the first person they look for? Themselves. And that's not only because of the modesty of wanting to make sure that I was looking okay. It's because somehow in the fact that they are in the photograph, there is a sense of recognition. There's a sense of, I exist. I matter. Human beings are desperately hungry for someone to say to them, you matter. It's great that you were invented. I'm so glad you were born. That's something I send regularly to all of those acquaintances on Facebook when it's their birthdays. I say, I am so glad you were born. I celebrate the fact that you exist. And that by itself is just, it's answering so much, it's scratching so much of the itch of most human beings, which is the itch for acceptance and recognition. When you're speaking to people, don't change the subject. That's something that I have a few friends who are past masters at. They always bring it back to their subject, whatever conversation is going on. I'm not quite sure how they develop that skill, but they do it almost without fail. Draw people forward. Remember what we said about people at the back of the room? Draw them forward from the back and out of the shadows, and let other people also engage with them as you have. Get people laughing. Get people feeling happy. Laughter is good medicine. Laughter, it says, is medicine for the soul. Laughter brings us strength. There's actually even a physiological response to laughing. It squeezes the thymus muscle and it releases the T cells, which are the weapons for fighting infection in our bodies. And so just laughing can help you avoid COVID. Maybe that might be taken wrongly. I'm not saying laughter instead of vaccines, okay? So, recalling the dynamics of change. Over the weeks that we've been together, we've focused on the following tools for how to change our EQ. The first one is self-understanding, and that includes self-acceptance, that I am a whole person, each part affecting all the other parts. Mindfulness, learning to become aware of my values, emotions, senses, and sensations, and why I feel them. Vocabulary, learning to articulate emotion with new depth of understanding. Then journaling. We spoke about writing our self-awareness as a means of expressing and processing feelings and tracking my growth. Fifthly, goal setting. Commitment to change is expressed in the commitment to setting and achieving goals and planning for their achievement. Number 6, affirmation. Using language that changes neural pathways, growing new beliefs by the repetition of statements that declare me to be who I want to be. Visualization, creating and focusing on the end vision for my life, the life that wants to be lived through me, the person I will become by the grace of God. And eighthly, consideration, affirming that I am because we are in every social setting that matters. And finally, rehabiting or rehabituation, to use a technical word. Using all of the above to grow new habits. Actions become feelings. Feelings become attitudes. Attitudes become behaviors once again. And behaviors repeated often enough become habits. And habits become character. So using all of the above to grow new habits, new neural pathways of thought, emotion, and action is the pathway to the life that you want to really live. And so, until next time, cheers.